keeping your brand fresh and young is very critical. Now, of course, when I say keeping your brand fresh, most people would think about the visual aspect, right? The visual language, of course, the identity, maybe the website, things like that. But keeping it young and fresh goes beyond that because a brand is not just the visual language. The visual language is one part of it. Fundamental to a strong and robust brand is actually the essence. And if you've been running your business for quite some time, or if your brand has been around for a little while, then a kind of stagnation sets in, especially for the core essence. Because when you started your business or your brand, let's say a few years ago, you had maybe a set of core values, right? You had a vision, a mission, things like that. Now, those, essentials or fundamentals, such as your vision, your mission, they may still be relevant today, but you got to keep an eye on them. You got to do a brand audit every 6 months. Okay, if 6 months is a bit too much, then every year, right? Typically, every 6 months is the best way. All it takes is a couple of days out of your busy schedule. And think of it as a part of the brand development, right? So it's not something that you need to do. It's a chore or something like that, but rather fundamental to your business success, fundamental to your bottom line. Now, a brand audit is about looking at, for example, your vision, right? So you look at your vision and say, this was our original vision. Is it still the same? Do we still believe in it? Is it relevant to what we are doing as a company, to the message that we are putting it out there, and so on and so forth? Now, that does not mean that a vision has to be changed every 6 months. In fact, if you're changing your vision every 6 months, then there is fundamentally something wrong with the vision itself. A lot of people say that, oh, you know what, you can change your vision. And just sticking to an old vision would actually do much damage. Now, I agree with that. But changing the vision just because you think that the market, you want to approach a different market, or you want to drum up more sales, now that is a recipe for disaster, right? So evaluate your vision, what it means to your brand, what it means to what you're doing right now, your services, your products, but most importantly, what it means to your target audience. Because your vision is about your target audience. Your vision is about the people that your business or brand affects, right? It's how it changes their worldview, how it changes their world. The same goes with mission. Now, mission, of course, can change frequently because a mission is actually an implementation of your vision with certain goals and objectives. And these change depending on how much you've already achieved, how much yet to achieve, or the changing landscape, so on and so forth. I've done a series of videos on vision, mission, and all that. And, I invite you to check those videos out just to get an idea of how all these play together. Same goes with core values. Now, core values usually do not change, but you can add new core values to the list that you already have. Messaging is something that you need to look at because messaging has to change, has to adapt to the changing landscape, and of course, has to be tweaked continuously. Messaging is nothing but storytelling, right? So your brand story being told, and visual language, of course, supports your messaging. So those two also have to be audited. Auditing is fundamental, right? Auditing is important, and it has to be done with the right attitude, with the right focus, and with the right goal in mind. Auditing is not so that you need to make changes. So you don't audit something so that you can make changes, but you audit your brand so that you understand where your brand is and in terms of, the landscape and target audience and all that. Visual language, of course, has to be always audited. Now, that does not mean that you need to change your primary logo every 6 months. But it does mean that you're trying to evaluate, is the visual language communicating our core essence properly? Is it telling the right story? Now, if that means that your primary logo or your secondary icon have to be tweaked or even changed to reflect that, then so be it. But changing your primary logo, changing your brand identity, these things, of course, have to be done with a lot of thought, right? Evaluation, analysis, consensus, and so on and so forth. So, what are you doing in terms of making sure that your brand is fresh and young? Now, of course, young here doesn't mean that, it's young in the sense that it gets refreshed every so often, but young at heart. Young not in terms of age, but young in terms of the possibilities, adventure. Because if your brand is not adventurous, both in terms of core essence, in its messaging, in its visual language, then it's very difficult to go towards the blue ocean, right? Because the ultimate aim of your brand should be to move away from the red ocean and move towards the blue ocean. The red ocean where competition is, fighting and there's blood in the water. Blue ocean is where you leave your competition behind. Competition becomes irrelevant and you are your own master and you're serving your target audience to the best of your abilities. Now, let me know if you have any questions on this topic and leave comments below and I will try and answer them. But I would invite you to take the opportunity today to reevaluate your brand, to plan a brand audit. And if you want, if you want to know how to do a brand audit, I have written an article some time ago. I'll try and link it below. If not, just ask me questions and I'll try and answer them. All right. Till my next video, take care.